I knew something was off the moment I saw her standing on my porch, twisting a key into my front door like she owned the place literally. That was the third time that week Karen had tried to use her so-called master key to get into my house. The key never worked because I had changed the locks months ago, but that didn't stop her from trying, or from acting like the queen of the cul-de-sac. She stood there in her lemon yellow blazer, clutching a clipboard like it was a badge of honor, muttering to herself as she jiggled the knob like maybe the lock would suddenly remember who she was. Then, with all the fake authority she could muster, she pulled out her phone and called 911. I heard her through the window. "Yes, this is Karen Mitchell, HOA president of Sycamore Oaks. I have a homeowner refusing access for a compliance inspection. He's changed the locks and is being aggressive." Aggressive? Lady, I was inside, drinking coffee in my pajamas. But let me back up a sec. I moved into this neighborhood about 6 months before all this mess started. Quiet streets, mature trees, good schools. It looked like the perfect place to start fresh. I just bought the house, a tidy little 2-bedroom with a yard full of lavender and hydrangeas, and was getting settled in when Karen came knocking. She showed up unannounced on a Tuesday morning, introduced herself as the HOA president, and said she needed to inspect the property to make sure it met community standards. Now, I'd already read the HOA handbook cover to cover before I signed anything. I'm that kind of guy, and I knew there was no clause allowing interior inspections, let alone a magical key that could open everyone's front door. So I told her politely that I'd reviewed the rules and I was in compliance. "Thank you very much." Her smile dropped faster than the value of a used treadmill. She told me, like I was a child, that she had master key access to every home in the development and could enter for emergencies or compliance reasons. She even pointed to a section in the agreement 4.7 or something that didn't exist. It was all made up. But she said it like it was gospel, like she was reciting law. That night, I triple-checked everything again: the HOA rules, county ordinances, even housing codes. She was full of it. So I called a locksmith the next morning, changed every lock on the house, upgraded to high-security deadbolts, and installed cameras facing every angle of the porch. And wouldn't you know it, she came back, this time with 2 other board members in tow. She marched up, tried her useless key, and when it didn't work, she demanded, not asked, demanded that I give her a copy of my new key. I laughed. Out loud. She didn't like that. Threatened fines, legal action, the whole HOA wrath. Said I'd regret it. So I filed a police report. That's when I met Officer Rodriguez, who told me, "We've had run-ins with her before. She thinks the HOA gives her some kind of badge." He said as long as I had no legal lease or tenant situation, which I didn't, she had zero right to access my home. My property was mine, end of story. But Karen. Oh, she didn't let up. Over the next few weeks, I started finding notes on my door: violations for having a garden gnome too close to the sidewalk, for using the wrong shade of light bulb on my porch. She even claimed my mailbox was off-center by 2 inches. It was absurd. None of it held water when I checked the covenants. Then the emergency checks started knocking at 10 p.m. About gas leaks, screaming at 7 a.m. About a structural issue. All fake. All caught on camera. Every time, I filed a report. Rodriguez was getting real familiar with her name by then. But here's where it gets wild. My neighbor across the street, Mrs. Henderson, sweetest 70-something I've ever met, leaned over the fence one day and said, "You know, we never had master keys in this development." Karen just started saying that a couple years ago. Turns out Karen had a buddy in the locksmith business, some guy named Tony, and together they'd been rekeying homes under the pretense of safety upgrades, giving Karen access without homeowners knowing. That's when I realized this wasn't just some bored suburban tyrant flexing her clipboard. This was a full-blown scam. So I got smart. Called the police dispatcher, set up a heads-up protocol in case Karen called 911 again, which of course, she did. That's the call I mentioned earlier, the one where she claimed I was a squatter. What she didn't know was that I had already alerted dispatch that morning, told them to call me if she tried anything. They did. I used our prearranged code to confirm I was safe, and then sat back and waited. 2 cruisers showed up minutes later. Karen launched into her monologue about HOA rights and emergency powers. She had a folder of what she said were legal docs, none of them real. When Officer Thompson asked for her authority to access my home, she started sweating. Literally. The woman who'd been acting like she owned the block couldn't even explain where her key came from. I opened my door with a smile and handed over everything they did, the HOA bylaws, footage of her jamming her key into my lock, and a timeline of every bogus complaint she'd filed. The officers didn't even hide their reactions. "Ma'am," Rodriguez said, "you are trespassing, and this report to 911 is being noted as a false emergency call." Karen looked like a balloon slowly losing air. You could see the moment she realized it was over. But she still tried to puff up. Said the HOA would come after me. That I'd made a powerful enemy. But no one, not even the board, backed her up. That night, I posted anonymously in the neighborhood forum. Just the facts, no names. And it blew up. Turns out, I wasn't her only victim. Mrs. Chen, 2 blocks over, came home from vacation to find her furniture rearranged and a note about HOA violations. Mr. Garcia had Karen walk into his home office and accuse him of running an illegal business he was just working remotely. In less than 2 weeks, we had dozens of residents ready to act. We held a community meeting not at the HOA center, but at the public library. Over 40 people showed. One by one, they shared their stories, how Karen had manipulated them, bullied them, let herself in while they were gone. The evidence was overwhelming. We petitioned the board. Demanded her removal. And we got it unanimously. But the story didn't stop there. Mrs. Henderson showed up at my door again a few days later, this time with a manila envelope. Inside were receipts, emails, even fake HOA meeting minutes, all showing that Karen had used HOA funds to pay Tony for lock changes and duplicate keys. She forged signatures. Created phony budgets. And worst of all, she sold those keys to people outside the neighborhood, debt collectors, PIs, even some with criminal records. The police launched a formal investigation. Karen was arrested. Tony's locksmith company was shut down. Over 40 homes had to replace their locks again, this time with certified documentation. The HOA changed its entire access policy. And Karen. She played out probation, community service, restitution to the homeowners she violated. She moved out 2 months later. Her house was bought by a young couple with 2 little kids. They introduced themselves on day 1 and said, "We heard your neighbor who stood up to an abusive HOA, that's why we moved here." And I just smiled. So yeah, Karen's master key was fake. But the real key, that was knowing the rules, keeping receipts, and refusing to be bullied. I didn't want power, I just wanted peace. Now the neighborhood feels like a community again. No more clipboard tyrants. No more phantom violations. Just people who look out for each other and a front door that only opens to those who belong. So what do you think? Was Karen just a control freak gone too far, or did she cross a criminal line? Let me know in the comments. Is your HOA protecting your rights or abusing them? And hey, always change your locks. You never know who's got a key.